Maya Chen had always been good with plants, not just good miraculous. Her fingers could coax life from the most stubborn seeds, resurrect dying houseplants with a touch, and somehow make her tiny Brooklyn apartment bloom like a greenhouse, despite getting only 3 hours of direct sunlight each day. She attributed it to YouTube tutorials and expensive fertilizer, never questioning why her neighbors' identical apartments remained barren while hers burst with impossible greenery. The building superintendent had stopped asking questions after Maya's Boston ivy covered the entire fire escape in a matter of weeks, transforming the building's facade from grimy brick to living wall. Another miracle worker. Her grandmother used to say in Mandarin, watching 5-year-old Maya resurrect a withered orchid. But Maya had dismissed it as the fond exaggeration of a doting elder. Grandma believed in too many old stories anyway, fox spirits, kitchen gods, ancestors who watched from shadows. Now, at 28, Maya worked as a data analyst for a marketing firm, spending her days lost in spreadsheets and algorithms. The only magic in her life was the small forest she'd cultivated in her apartment, a secret garden that helped her breathe in the suffocating city. Everything changed the night she found the stone. She'd been walking home from her late shift, taking the shortcut through Prospect Park, despite the hour. The path was familiar, lined with trees she'd unconsciously nurtured during her daily run, stouching bark here, brushing leaves there, leaving them somehow stronger. But tonight, something pulled her deeper into the park's heart. The sensation was magnetic, inexorable. Her feet carried her past the lake, beyond the well-lit paths, into a grove where the city's glow couldn't penetrate. There, half buried beneath the roots of an ancient oak, lay a stone tablet covered in symbols that seemed to shift in the moonlight. Maya knelt and brushed away centuries of earth and leaves. The moment her skin made contact with the stone, the world exploded into sensation. Images flooded her mind. Vast forests stretching endlessly. Cities built in harmony with living trees. People who spoke to plants, and plants that answered back. And at the center of it all, a figure wreathed in green light. Goddess of growing things, of life itself, whose name had been forgotten when the last sacred grove fell to concrete and steel. Maya gasped, jerking her hand away. But the visions lingered, and with them came understanding. The goddess hadn't died. She'd slept, waiting for cities to grow large enough to need her again, waiting for someone to bridge the gap between the ancient world and the new, waiting for Maya. The next morning, Maya called in sick to work. She couldn't leave her apartment, wouldn't leave it. Because overnight, it had transformed into something beyond imagination. Every surface teemed with life. Vines cascaded from the ceiling, their leaves shimmering with dew that tasted like rain from prehistoric storms. Flowers bloomed in impossible colors, their petals releasing fragrances that carried memories of forests older than civilization. The walls themselves seemed to breathe, covered in moss that pulsed with gentle light. And Maya understood. The goddess hadn't been waiting for worship or temples. She'd been waiting for cities to become forests again. Maya pressed her palm against the nearest wall, feeling the pulse of life beneath the plaster and brick. Through the building's bones, she sensed her neighbors, Mrs. Rodriguez on the 3rd floor, whose arthritis had vanished after weeks of breathing air, filtered through Maya's impossible garden. The college students upstairs, whose anxiety had melted away in the presence of Maya's calming plants. The elderly man in 2B, whose emphysema had quietly, inexplicably improved. The goddess's gift wasn't just growth, it was healing. And in a city of 8 million souls, all of them slowly poisoned by concrete and exhaust and the grinding poverty of green spaces, that gift was desperately needed. Maya spent the next week in a fever dream of creation. She walked the streets with new eyes, seeing potential everywhere. A touch here, a whispered word there, and the city began to transform. Sidewalk cracks sprouted with wildflowers that could thrive on car exhaust, transforming pollution into clean air. Rooftop gardens appeared overnight, fed by rain collection systems that seemed to call storms from clear skies. Abandoned lots became pocket forests, their trees growing with impossible speed to provide shade and shelter. But Maya wasn't alone in her work. As the green spread, others awakened to their own gifts. The florist on Fifth Avenue discovered she could grow roses in December, their blooms somehow warming the air around them. The park maintenance worker in Central Park found that his touch could heal diseased trees. His presence could calm aggressive wildlife. The elementary school teacher in Queens realized her classroom plants were teaching her students about more than photosynthesis. They were sharing ancient wisdom about balance, patience, and the deep connections between all living things. The goddess was returning through all of them, her power distributed among those who had always felt the pull of growing things, but never understood why. The city noticed, of course. How could it not? Air quality improved dramatically. Crime rates dropped in areas where Maya's influence had taken root. It was hard to harbor violent thoughts when surrounded by the patient peace of old-growth trees. Property values skyrocketed in the newly green neighborhoods, but somehow rents didn't follow suit. Maya's plants had a way of convincing landlords to be more generous, more human. Scientists scrambled to explain the phenomenon. Climate change activists hailed it as proof that nature could reclaim urban spaces. Religious leaders debated whether they were witnessing a divine intervention. Social media exploded with theories and documentation of the Brooklyn miracle. Maya watched it all from her apartment, now so overgrown that visitors often lost their way in corridors that had become forest paths. She felt the goddess stirring more fully with each passing day, ancient consciousness overlaying her own. But instead of feeling consumed, Maya felt complete. She had always been meant for this, to be the bridge between old magic and new need. The goddess whispered to her in the rustle of leaves, spoke in the language of chlorophyll and root systems. Cities are just another kind of forest. The people who built them forgot this, but the plants remember. And now, so do you. Maya smiled, pressing her face against the bark of a tree that had grown through her kitchen window. Outside, she could feel the pulse of her expanding garden city. Millions of plants, and the people who tended them all, connected in a vast network of green consciousness. The old world had needed temples and sacrifices to honor its gods, but the new world only needed gardeners. As she drifted off to sleep that night, Maya felt the goddess's presence settling into her bones, not as an invasion, but as a homecoming. Tomorrow, she would walk further into the city. Tomorrow, she would plant seeds in soil that had forgotten how to dream. And when she woke, Maya knew with absolute certainty that she would never need to call in sick again. She had found her true calling, her real job, teaching a concrete jungle to remember it was alive. In the distance, a siren wailed, but it was different now, harmonizing with the whisper of wind through leaves. The city's mechanical heartbeat slowly syncing with the deeper rhythm of roots and rainfall and the patient, endless pulse of life itself. The goddess had returned, and she was everywhere.